if you want more freedom, raise your standards, not your motivation.
When you shifted from reacting to noise throughout your morning to protecting your deep work, what opened up for you?
Yeah, so for me, when I shifted to a protocol which allowed for me to spend the first, sometimes it's 4 to 5 hours, sometimes it's less, um, part of my first part of my day in what I call deep work, which is essentially I shut off everything associated with notifications, not going into email, not going into anything which is like communication based. Everything's on do not disturb, and I focus solely on the things that allow for me to move the ball forward, that have have the biggest levers for Ian Barry as a human being, but more specifically for my businesses, and I get them done within the first chapter of the day. That allowed me to move a lot more fluidly with regards to my organization and with regards to myself, because I was able to tackle a lot of those things that I was, doing sporadically throughout the day while answering a bunch of different forms of communication, and or I was just getting through a lot more of the fluidity of I was allowing myself to have a lot more of a fluid day because I got heavy weighted tasks, and then I went straight into communication throughout the day after that. And I was also able to put a lot more mental bandwidth into those specific tasks earlier on in the day, which allowed for obviously a significantly better output I have seen from leveraging my day in that capacity.
What can compound for someone long term when they protect that deep work?
Yeah, I think in general, not even just like if you're not in a if you're not an entrepreneur, you don't have like a frame or a system where you can let's say you leverage, let's say, a period of deep work, but you're able to take what is your day-to-day schedule and you're able to prioritize it in a way where the heavier items that are for you are segmented out, which give you the opportunity and the space to zone solely in on those whenever it may be, which works best for your schedule, and it's a non-negotiable. That's going to allow for you to be able to see you know tangible multiples of progress from whatever it is that is your whatever it is you're working towards within the 24 hours that are given to us every single day. I mean, you can, depending on who the individual is and how much you put into it. I don't want to BS you and tell you, yeah, you're going to do exactly X, Y, and Z, right? That depends on you and your ecosystem and how much you put into it. But I can tell you that being very intentional with how you map out your day and making sure that's a non-negotiable, and you're able to leverage a segmented period, like solely for you on whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, put that to work.
Kind of spoke to this already, but what specifically became a non negotiable?
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, for me, everything that I do in terms of I'm going to give this a shot or I'm going to institute this system or this program, it's a non-negotiable once I've committed to it. Now I know me personally, that's just my attitude and that's how I approach things. I know not everyone is like that, so I would say if you are like that, we don't really need to be even going into what I'm about to speak to here because you already vibe that way. But for those of you that aren't like that, I would highly recommend that you institute that type of that you start leveraging that muscle in this particular capacity to have items without your day that just they get done without you having to coerce yourself to do it, because once you are able to install systems within your particular day that are items that rain or shine, you know, sun or not, like we're getting this done or we're getting it done, at the time period we say we're going to get done. I mean, that flexes a muscle that's not just only going to give you the output that you want in whatever exercise that you're putting that time towards, but it's also giving you that muscle that has applicability outside of whatever you're putting that work towards and in life just in general. So the only thing I can tell you is that fucking do it. You know what I mean? And be real with that and commit to that.
Is there a specific first thing someone can audit in their schedule as a place to start?
I think if you're a entrepreneur or you're a business owner or you're someone who's achieving something in any capacity, I would say that the place that you want to start with auditing your own ecosystem and your own program would just be like, what are the areas, what are the things you want to achieve the most currently right now, get an understanding of that. And then wherever you find yourself not being able to commit enough time towards that, or feeling like you're not making as much progress as you like towards that, it's completely tied to your ability to segment time to that and put in what is required. Then that's the ringing bell to say, okay, I need to readjust whatever it is within my ecosystem to allow myself to have the time to put into this. And it doesn't have to be all the way from like A to Z, right? So I'm not saying I feel like inevitably what you should be doing is leveraging, say, 2 hours of your day towards this. And your current system, I'm not saying that you have to rearrange everything to now go from what it might be 10, 15 minutes, just throwing out numbers, to 2 hours. But like, commit to rearranging an ecosystem where you've got now 45 minutes. And then once 45 minutes is aligned, see what else you can do to move around to get that to, hour and 15 minutes, push a little bit more in that capacity, get 30 more minutes in. I find that all too often, sometimes too, we'll try to jump to the other end of the spectrum, and then we'll put pressure on other areas when we haven't aligned that ecosystem as well yet to allow for what we ultimately have, what we want from that original piece to like actually come forth. So I say that all to say, again, take baby steps towards getting there. It doesn't always have to be, jumping all the way to the end of what is the Z spectrum.
Cool. You've already touched on it too, but to frame it in a call to action, can you state it with, I would invite you to start with 45 minutes. I would invite you to start with a small block, whatever you can encompass to be able to start.
Yeah, I would invite you to just take that first step and commit to that first step for 30 days, whatever it is. Starting with the self-audit, and then after that, recognizing what it is you want to accomplish. If you haven't already, if you know what it is, bing blah, we're already in there. And then making the commitment to dedicate something towards that you haven't been previously, that is like an actual physical time commitment that you can look at and say, oh, okay, yeah, I put in the time or I didn't. Don't say, yeah, I'm going to put more towards it or what have you, something that's open-ended. Figure out what it is, put a timeline on that, put a time on the amount of time that you're going to actually dedicate towards this, or schedule adjustment, whatever it may be, and then commit to that for 30 days.